kicking it off.
All right, we good to go?
Yes.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Transit Oversight Committee meeting. It is Tuesday, March 29th, 4:01 p.m. I'll do a quick roll call. I will continue to struggle with everybody over at RVT because I still can't, because of the single camera view. We have Bonnie Katz, Eric Biter from City Council, myself, Adam Yoder. We have the mayor, Derek Slaughter. We have our transit solicitor, Jill Nagy, finance, Joe Pavlok, our city clerk, Janice Frank. Mr. Winter, would you go around the room if you don't mind, sir?
Sure. We have Bethany Jones, the assistant controller, Nicole Farr, myself, Adam Winder, Todd Wright, Renee Smith, Brett Kelly, Steve Smith, and Chris Clark.
Excellent. And then we have a few guests joining us. We'll get to here in a minute. And then Josh, are you with Jill's team?
Yeah, he's from my office.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. I almost said Josh Lyman, like we're in the West Wing here. So you almost got me. Welcome, Josh. Good to see you. All right. The first item on our agenda are some appointees to the newly created RVT Authority Board. So we have 4 appointees, and I think 3 of which are here. Oh, there's Max Moore. He joined us as well. How are you, sir? So we'll go one by one, if that's okay, for a little bit, and we'll just go in order as what you show up on my screen here. So we'll go with Mr. Richard Stamen first. Well, I'll let the mayor actually kick this off. Sorry about that. It's the end of a Tuesday.
Good afternoon, Chairman Yoder, members of the Transit Oversight Committee. Yes, what I have before you today for your consideration are 4 names for the newly or soon to be newly created River Valley Transit Authority Board appointments. As with any board and the boards we discussed earlier today, Ways, Garden, and Harb, we're very thankful anytime community members volunteer their time to step up and serve the city in this capacity. Obviously, we do have other boards that are open and authorities that have open positions. And so sort of what we say each time is, if there are other folks out there listening or watching, if there's anyone interested or anyone interested, please send them our way for any of our boards or authorities. But today we have Mr. Richard Stamen, Mr. Chuck Cruz, Mrs. Tricia Marty, and Mr. Max Moore before this committee for your review and consideration for appointment. And for the River Valley Transit Authority Board, given that it obviously is a brand new authority being created, these would be staggered terms, 1-year, 2-year, 3-year, 4-year, and 5-year terms. Obviously, today we only have 4 individuals. We are still reviewing a few folks for that 5th position and hope to have that in front of council in the very, very near future. So as you said, we're starting with Mr. Richard Stamen. Lifelong city resident. I think most folks are obviously pretty familiar probably with the Stamen name. Stamen owns Stamen Recycling here in the city, business owner, family here in the city, lives in the city, very committed for many, many, many years, the entire Stamen family to the city and seeing the city move forward in a positive direction. Very excited to have all 4 of these individuals, including Mr. Stamen, step up, as I said earlier, to volunteer their time for this board. And so since we're starting Mr. Stamen, I'll turn it back over to you, Chairman Yoder, for any additional questions from you or the committee.
Thank you, Mayor Slaughter. And we could actually do this a couple of different ways since we have 4 individuals here. I mean, Eric, Bonnie, at least between council members, if there's common questions that we have for all 4 candidates, we can, kind of do them as a group if you want, or we can go one by one. Is there any preference one way or the other?
I think as a group would serve us all well.
Okay,
It would save time also.
okay. No, we can certainly do that. So,
You want to run down the other three quickly?
yeah, if you don't mind. Thank you, Mayor Slaughter.
Sure, sure. So I'll go with Mrs. Trisha Marty next. Again, family very dedicated to the Williamsport community for many, many years. Has served in various capacities on various boards and other in the community. And she is again volunteered her time to serve us in this capacity. And I'm very excited that she again made herself available to serve the River Valley Transit Authority Board. Lives in the city, family, children, attended a school district and still has one in the district. And so again, committed to our Williamsport community for many, many years. Mr. Max Moore, same, lives in the city, graduate of the high school, graduate of Lycoming College, dedicated, again, all four of these individuals very dedicated to our community and the region and seeing it grow and expand. And Max, again, living in the city, serves on our accessibility commission that council created in 2020, I believe, and has served on that for the past few years. And so we're very, very excited to have Max's name before you all as well. And last but certainly not least, maybe least, I don't know. I'll just mess with you. We have Mr. Chuck Cruz. He's before you. Coach Cruz, who was our football, Williamsport High School's football coach for 7 seasons, coach, I believe. Just recently decided to move on and go after some other career options, but he's teaching at the high school, social studies teacher, getting kids in the district, lives in the school district, or lives in the city, I should say, excuse me. Another individual very committed to our community. And so I think with these 4 individuals, you have a cross section of the community, but more importantly, individuals that truly care about Williamsport and the region and seeing it grow and move forward in a positive direction.
All right, thank you, Mayor Slaughter. I guess we can open up the floor for questions. Bonnie, Eric, do you have any questions for the group that you'd like to start off with?
Yes, with other committees, there's a volunteer process and there's also a huge learning curve. One of our authorities, especially the Water Authority, has a huge learning curve. It takes several years to get the knowledge that's needed to get acclimated to exactly what needs to be done. This is going to be a new authority. From everything that has been presented to us, this is going to be another committee that is going to have a huge learning curve. You will be guided with the city solicitor, but there's going to be a lot of time that's going to have to be devoted to this. With all 4 of you, how do you feel with that being presented to you? Open up, let's see, who's on, not on mute. Okay, let's start with Richard Stamen. my favorite person. You're in the center of my screen.
Yeah, thank you for the vote of confidence. Yeah, I would like to help with the process and get this started. So look forward to working with the group and do the best I can to do what needs to be done.
And if I can add in just very briefly, Jill, there will be board training once, pending council approval, obviously. Can you just maybe speak to that a little bit, just so that we're aware of the training that is out there to Councilwoman Katz's point?
Yeah, so I'm thinking sometime in April, early May, we do an initial kind of training, take some time to look at it. And PennDOT also sponsors a training through Penn Train that I think we can do, which is a little bit more robust as we get closer to the date. So we can do a very kind of one-on-one Williamsport type training to begin with, and then circle back through the Penn Train sponsored training, since they have money set aside for Williamsport and the new board there. So I think that might be like kind of the strategy to do that. So it's not all overwhelming at once, kind of have a short training that's very localized to Williamsport, and then move on to a more robust transit, PennDOT, FTA type training to show where the funds come from and how those have to be used is kind of what I'm thinking, which is why I kind of suggested some lead time before our July 1st kickoff date to get the board members in place, even though they might not be having formal meetings, to start the training process.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to interject. I thought that was relevant to the question though. So sorry.
It really is, Mayor. I think another thing that, how much time do you think, Jill, will have to be devoted to this and the starting up process? You know, the starting up is going to be a lot to digest.
So I think that the first one we kind of do like 2 hours. The second one we can do a longer format, and then, you know, circle back with the board members if they want additional ones. Certainly, PennDOT has volunteered to make that available to them as much or as little as needed. So, you know, whether we have to do it in person or Zoom, we can do follow-ups if there's still some loose items that hang out there. There's also some do-it-yourself at home modules for authority members that I'm sure we can make available to everyone if they need some additional background that they can do in their own time. So I'm thinking, you know, 2 hours at the beginning, maybe another 4 after that, as far as we lead up into July is kind of what I'm thinking. And we can do it whenever format the authority members need to do it in, live or Zoom, whatever the case might be.
And once this is getting started up, and this is just for the people that are here that are volunteering their time, how many hours a month do you think they'd be devoting to this?
So the typical board meeting, once the transit organization's moving forward, is most of the board meetings don't go more than an hour. I think in May and June might be a little bit longer, because you're going to have to do things you typically won't have to do, like authorize signatures for bank accounts, adopt handbooks, you know, some things like that. Not a lot is reinventing the wheel, but it's just going to be a lot of different actions and motions the first 2 meetings. Then once we get down the path of starting regular transportation authority meetings, you're going to be really looking at rider statistics, finances, things like that. So it'll be a little bit shorter, but I would count on an hour, hour and a half a month.
I'm not trying to scare you guys away. I want you to be prepared of where we're going with this. I'm going to pass the ball on to Eric at this point. Is Eric
Thank you
here?
very much. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I had to make sure I hit the correct button for unmute. So my main concern is obviously just making sure that we're doing the correct thing, not only for the few 4 individuals that are willing to join this board, but also for the authority itself, because we do serve such a large area, more than just the city of Williamsport, more than just Lycoming County. Is it in our best interest to nail down all the governance and bylaws a little bit farther to make sure that, is this something that the city is going to continue to be involved with for the next several years, decades, and so on? Or is this something that we'd like to open up to more members of the actual ridership outside of the city of Williamsport, so we can continue to disentangle ourselves from RVT as we've been trying to this past year? If any of you would like to speak to why you've stepped forward to be on this board, other than Mr. Stamen, who already mentioned, Mrs. Marty, you had mentioned in your brief bio that you were on the airport authority, which I think is great experience for that. And if you could speak, if any of you would like to speak to that a little bit more, I would appreciate it. And I'm sure the other members of council would as well.
Do you want me to go ahead and start then, Eric?
That'd be great, since I singled you out, and I do apologize for that, but I would appreciate it.
Okay, I just, I really have always wanted to be involved in the community and helping Williamsport and the surrounding area be the best that it can be. It's very important to me. We chose to come back here to raise our children. We were living in Colorado, and I have had the advantage actually of living in Chicago for 4 years and used public transportation on a daily basis there and never moved my car. So I do have that experience and experience in Denver as well. So some more metropolitan areas. My daughter lives in New York City, so we're in there frequently and use public transportation, there as well. I personally have always been fascinated with infrastructure, and just an example of Disney World, I'm much more interested in how everything operates there than I am the actual experience of Disney World. Just, I'm intrigued by all of it. I am just want to serve and make this area the best that it can be. So.
Tricia, that's my thing too. I rather see how things are run underground than the rides itself. To me, I find that more fascinating. I know you've been very involved with the city in so many different areas. One of the things that I know you from is from the arts. You did an incredible job several years ago when we had the big art thing in downtown. And I know your passion for doing things organized and also researching. So, that much I do know that you enjoy doing.
Mr. Moore, Mr. Cruz, is there anything you'd like to chime in on related to Mr. Biter's question as well?
I will just say that I, as was mentioned in my bio, born and raised in the Williamsport area. My family is from here. I volunteer lots of other aspects of the community. It's something I care deeply about, and I'm excited that this is a way to give back, not just to the city of Williamsport itself, but like Eric said, also the surrounding community, something that serves such a much larger area. I think personally, I provide somewhat of a unique perspective. You know what I mean? Accessibility matters, particularly in areas like public transportation, which should be accessible to everybody. So I think serving on a board like this, representation matters, and having that unique perspective can only help the River Valley Transit Authority be the best that it can be.
Go ahead, Mr. Cruz. I saw you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, just being a transplant, I have a unique perspective of my formative years being spent on public transportation. In most children's lives, our bike is our first, taste of true freedom, which was the same with me. But to take it a step further, growing up in Philadelphia, public transportation was the way I was able to get a job. It's the way I got to school all through high school and even parts of middle school. And having that same perspective when I got here and took in all that was so good about this community, the first thing that popped in my mind is, all right, the bus runs right down 4th Street and stops at the bottom of the hill in front of the DSC, but it doesn't come up the hill. So I'm thinking now, as a high school teacher, how many more students would be able to get to school if that bus just went up the hill and, at some point in the day had to drop off and things like that. So the way I look at being on this commission is a way to make the city and the surrounding areas more accessible for the youth to get jobs, to go out and have a good time, and us not be concerned about, teenage drivers or other things that could possibly happen. So I'm hoping that my experience as a bus rider will bring a perspective that will help the committee.
Excellent. Appreciate that.
Thank you all for that.
Oh, sorry, Eric, go ahead. You have any more questions, Eric?
No, not at this time. I just appreciate the input from all of you. You've all had a unique impact on the community in very different ways, and it's much appreciated. So thank you for stepping up for something like this.
Let me reiterate that statement also.
No, I appreciate the questions from both of you. The big question that I have for all four of you, it's probably more technical in nature. And so if I get too in the weeds, I'll apologize in advance, but could you each speak to, I guess, your level of prior exposure and understanding of FTA and PennDOT regulations unique to transit? And the reason I ask that, you know, and now going on my third year on council, this is by far the most complex item that we deal with. You know, and frankly, we should have been, in my opinion, I think that we should have been separating a lot of the governance of the city of RVT for a while longer because of that. I have at least found that there's so much out there that it's taken such a focus on that, and it's diverted our focus from other areas. But nonetheless, it's been a monumental undertaking. And I mean, only being here a third year, I'm still a long way away from having a firm, I think, understanding to where I'm adequately comfortable being able to be like, yes, we can do that. No, we can't do that. Here's how we do that. Here's how we don't do that. You know, so could each of you speak a little bit to, I guess, your familiarity and understanding with FTA and PennDOT regulations? And if you're not familiar, you know, I guess maybe speak to your approach to getting familiar and ramping up in a expedited fashion.
If you don't mind, I'll jump in on that, Adam.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. Thank you.
I have very little to no familiarity with that stuff, and I didn't know that that was a prerequisite to, you know, volunteering to serve on this authority. If it is, I may have to reconsider. That being said, I thought my role was to listen to the experts that are currently employed in terms of legal counsel, people already on city council, and the people running the authority, and then apply a business person's common sense take from my personal experiences and business experiences in life. So if I have that wrong, I'm not willing to go back to school to learn the details of, you know, I've dealt with PennDOT in business and whatnot, but, you know, if I got it wrong, then, you know, I'm happy to step aside at this point, but I think I can contribute in that.
Yeah, Mr. Stamen, you know, I don't think you need to necessarily go back to school and or anything. You know, there's a lot of training resources available out there, but I do. This is just my personal opinion. I mean, others may certainly differ, and you know, it may not be the best approach, but at least from an individual perspective, I've found that having even a foundational understanding has been beneficial to be able to provide a self-check and balance. And I think even from a board perspective, I think that's important. And regardless of what board, you know, we're looking at filling, whether, I mean, we just had a conversation on in finance about filling a role for the hard board. You know, they didn't necessarily have any experience with federal, you know, grant regulations or what have you, and they typically don't. But you know, I think that some of that experience with history and what have you is applicable there. We had another one for Ways Garden, and having some of the understanding related to some of the specifics with that board also, you know, so that's the reason I asked that. So I don't know that, I mean, you don't necessarily need to go to school or what have you, but you know, I do think it's important to have at least a foundational understanding to serve on this board specifically. And I say that also because I think this board is unique in nature compared to a lot of other ones. I think the closest thing we have is probably the Water Authority. And I know I say that because there's just a lot of, you know, state and federal things that come down on them also.
So just a quick reply to that, and then I'll defer to the other candidates and whoever else is on the call and cease and desist. But my understanding, and I understand what you're saying, you know, given the history and the problems that have led to where we're at. It is important that a person has the understanding and takes it seriously. So noted and point well made. And same with the Water Authority, very important too. That being said, I thought with the orientation and training that you were going to be providing us the materials that we need to review to get up to speed. But your for lack of a better word, admonishment is taken seriously and well put.
Thanks, Richard. I appreciate that. Mr. Cruz.
Yeah, I just, the fact that this will be a new board, I think, Councilman, that we would need to get together and see where our strengths and weaknesses lie, so to speak. There may be a member of the board who is more well-versed with acquiring and maintaining that information more so than others. And the fact that we're going to establish this together as we get together and we kind of divide and conquer, this massive undertaking, we all would have a specialty, so to speak. So yes, while it's taking you as a individual, 3 years of trying to wrap your hands around it all, us as a collective entity with our own set of talents and strengths and weaknesses would be able to make the board more effective with that, because where your strengths may be are my weaknesses. So, okay, we'll let you run with that and I'll take on this chunk, and Mrs. Marty will take on this chunk, and Mr. Moore will take on that chunk, so forth and so on. So I don't think any of us should bury our head and go run hide yet until we see what we bring to the table.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
I would agree with what Mr. Cruz said there. I can say I personally don't have any hands-on experience with PennDOT or FTA or anything like that, but I did graduate with a degree in political science. We did have multiple classes concerned with state, local, federal government, how the tax dollars and how grants and stuff work to provide things like public transportation, you know what I mean? So it's not something that I'm unfamiliar with, and I've always been a very quick study. I've always been a very fast learner. I think there are going to be plenty of training resources, and as Mr. Cruz said, we are a team, we are a unit, we do have people with experience to fall back on, and I'm confident that in the 2 months of training and stuff, we'll be ready to go when it's time to get up and running.
Thanks, Max.
I agree with Max. I think we're all capable of learning quickly. I have a little bit of experience with PennDOT with some of the larger construction projects that we've done, and certainly being on the airport authority, but nothing compared to what we're going to need for this, but I'm willing to learn.
I appreciate that, Miss Marty. Thank you so much. The only other question, I guess, is more for the mayor. Just can you speak to the process that you went through here? And the reason I asked that is, I had a number of people reach out to me, and I think a number of us on council had people reach out as well. And I had told them, hey, I think that we're still flushing out some details as far as how appointment processes are going to happen and who's going to do them before we go down this route. So I guess moving forward, there's, as it sits today, so we have a 5-member board. We have one more person to fill. We've had discussions about expanding that to maybe more, or what have you. I guess what was your process going through this, and then what would your process be moving forward so that we can make sure that we get other interested parties to the table to go through the process?
Well, I think as far as expanding it, I think Jill spoke to that a little bit. And just for the 4 folks on here, Jill Nagy is one of our solicitors, primarily with transit. So that's who Ms. Nagy is. But I believe, and Jill, correct me if I'm wrong, but the initial 5-member board, once they adopt the bylaws, et cetera, at that point, I know we've had discussions around expanding it possibly by 2 members. to include the service area, they would be in a position to do that moving forward if they so choose. And that could be, the county, it could be, anywhere in the service area. Am I correct on that point?
Yeah, so the initial authority was set up as a city authority with revolving terms of the board members. At any time, the city may expand the board on their own, or they can partner with the county to make it a joint authority. That just takes an amendment to the Articles of Incorporation, which is a much simpler process than we did to start the authority. So at any time, that can happen. So if city council says, yeah, we want to partner with Lycoming County or Clinton County, certainly you can do that. They can assist in appointing additional board seats, or if the city feels, hey, we feel it's just appropriate to have a city enterprise, they can certainly do that and expand board seats. If you have a large stakeholder, and this is for no reason except for just my geography, if you say, hey, Muncie has a big dog in the fight, the Muncie Borough could have, be included in the Articles of Incorporation. So all of those things can happen as we evolve. The initial 5-member board would be the inaugural board. And what they would do is we would get the authority set up and moving. Certainly, then at that point, the city has flexibility on if you want to amend those Articles of Incorporations to expand or bring other stakeholders into the authority. That can happen at any time.
And as far as your other question, as with any board, obviously, folks are interested, and for this one particularly, I think it was important to get a nice cross-section of the community. And I think these 4 folks that we have here today, and the 5th one that we're still working through, bring that cross-section, variety of experience, variety of backgrounds, which was noted earlier between the 4 candidates. Both when you look at professional background, accessibility, transit related items. And I think we've put together a board right now that hits each one of those areas and is a very good representation of our community and is a good cross-section of our community. As far as finding 5 individuals that would have been extremely well-versed in transit, I think that would be somewhat difficult, but as the others have already stated, all 4 of these individuals are highly intelligent, and I believe, given the training that is available, will be just fine with learning the regulations of both PennDOT and FTA, and I think that the 5th member that will be coming before you all in the very near future will provide that same type of intellect and also add an additional level of experience and add to the diversity of this board.
So Derek, for the 5th member, if we have names, do you want us just to pass them to you, or how do you want to do that?
Sure, you can forward them to me. Sure.
Okay. Mr. Winder, you have your hand up. I don't know if that's by accident or on purpose.
No, I just wanted to say, based upon your questions of the 4 members, we can naturally share with them all the rules and regulations directly off the FTA's website. We can give them procurement manuals that are directly given to us by FTA, PennDOT, et cetera. They're welcome to come to RVT, oversee anything that's going on, try to get up to speed. We have monthly meetings with PennDOT. They're more than welcome to join in those monthly meetings, ask questions at that point. The biggest thing I want to say is I don't think any of us are here to set them up to fail or RVTA to fail by any means. I have worked with most of these individuals in some capacity over my years with the city of Williamsport. I have the utmost faith in all of them. And like I said, we'll give them any tools they need to be productive and, move forward in a positive manner.
And if I can add too, Councilman, the sooner the better if you have names interested, so that I can get that back in front of you all very soon.
Just to give a snapshot, I've been putting together, this is not the first new authority in the world. So kind of what I've done is looked at the agendas for the first couple kickoff authority meetings, like in the Harrisburg region, to kind of mirror that, because there's certain things we have to do at the first couple meetings. the first two meetings are going to be a lot of HR driven, like employee handbooks, things where we're not reinventing the wheel. So that will get the board, I would hope, some feel and some rhythm with each other, because we won't have to make a lot of the hard procurement and grant type decisions till about October. So that will give you guys a chance to really gel and start to be thinking business-like and see some rider statistics before we get into the October grant season, where you'll get into more sophisticated regulatory type things. So that should give the new authority a couple meetings under their belts just to get to know each other again, rhythm, figure out how you want the agenda to work. The first couple meetings will be a lot of stuff that is not too discretionary. It already exists. It's going to be readopting it for the new authority. So, as we get into the August, September timeframe, I would anticipate telegraphing for you all, hey, we're going to get into grant season. Here's what we're looking at. So if we need to fill in some of those gaps in learning curve and stuff, we can do that as we need to, just because you're all 5 of you would be starting at once, or if there's 7 by then, whatever the case might be, we'll take it one step at a time. But the first couple meetings, the good thing to know about is it's a lot of information that already exists for the city. It's going to be readopting it as the new authority, very employee driven before we get into the regulatory aspect of the authority's life, which will be into the fall. So just to kind of give you a taste of what it's like, we've already kind of started outlining meeting 1, meeting 2, just to meet the criteria to get the employees onboarded and ready to go.
Sounds good, Jill. Bonnie, Eric, any other final questions before we wrap up this part of the agenda?
No, I don't have any other.
Not at this time.
All right. Well, so we don't like, pass this on with any kind of recommendation or what have you. It's strictly an opportunity to get more into the weeds out before we get into the actual council meeting on Thursday. The 4 of you are welcome to come on Thursday. You don't have to if you don't want to, though. That's totally your call. But we'll be voting on this one Thursday, and then we'll go from there. So do the 4 of you have any final questions for us? Take it as an
Thank you for the opportunity. Possible opportunity.
Yeah, no, certainly. Thanks for the 4 of you for stepping up and expressing your willingness to serve. And again, this is a new authority that we've been working through here this year. And I'd make the argument that it's going to be a bit of a unique opportunity given a lot of stuff going on, and again, the newness in nature. But it's an opportunity to have a really big impact, not only just on the city, but on the region, as you all had mentioned. So excited that we have 4 people that are interested. And again, I just thank you for expressing your willingness to serve. So thank you all. You're welcome to stay. I'm sure you guys got other things going on, though, so you guys are welcome to leave at this point as well. So it's up to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good afternoon.
You guys also. All right. Moving on, item 2, discussion on transit authority governance. So Jill, what I thought, I think we kind of hit this a little bit when we were going through the interviews, but you sent out some information to the group.
Yep.
Why don't you walk us through what you sent out a little bit, and then I have a couple of individual thoughts on my end, but we'll open up for Bonnie and Eric, and then we can, go over any kind of specific details and go from there before we get into agenda items quick at the end of this.
Sure. So I think I sent a couple different emails. The first one I sent had some various articles of incorporation. You guys at least have that started. You have your EIN number. We're starting to, talk to the federal government. One of the things we'll have to get as we move forward is a letter from the governor making RVTA the grant recipient, when the grant year's done. So some of those things are in place because we knew they would take a significant amount of time. I gave you these articles just so you could look at situations. Again, I'm going to refer to Erie, where Erie is a city county authority, how their board membership goes. Now, if there's a concern, we have 5, we wanted a 9-member board, 4 and 5. Don't forget, every year, one of the authority members' term will expire. So you can even amend your articles to say, 4 members for the county, or 3 members for Lycoming County, 1 for Clinton. And when one of your city people rotate off, you can amend your articles. So you have a tremendous amount of flexibility. The questions are always, and this is what PennDOT would ask, you have local match responsibility. Typically the voting board members commit to a portion of local match. So that's kind of the discussion or quote unquote negotiation you might want to have in the background, as far as, if you're going to have a board seat, what's your skin in the fight? So those are things that certainly city council, you're the sole member of the authority now, so you can drive that train if you want to over the next few months, next year. It doesn't matter, have discussions with the county for a bigger commitment. Like I said, if we want to expand a fixed route into Clinton County, they might say, we'll also contribute local match if we get a board seat. So those articles of incorporation and amendment really are either extending the life of the authority or demonstrating the members of the various authorities within the Commonwealth. So that's kind of what you have from a governance standpoint that can take place at any time. So that's the first thing. Let's see. The next thing I sent to you would be, and myself and PennDOT kind of put some of this stuff together for training materials, and it's used not only for new board members, but existing board members, where we have a sample transit board job description, resources for municipal authorities. These are things that I would go through with the authority members, and council certainly willing to, I'm happy to have sit in any training. It's nice for a new board to see what laws apply to them, the sunshine law, the ethics law, that kind of stuff, their governmental immunity. So there's a little cheat sheet of laws and resources for the members. There's a code of ethics statement that a lot of municipal authorities adopt since they're not elected officials and they fall under the FTA master agreement, what their code of ethics is, an ethics statement, and their member responsibilities. Again, they can't raise taxes. They can't do some of those things like you all do. So they're kind of at the mercy of the grants and being frugal with their money. So we kind of like to go through all those member responsibilities with them as a kickoff, hey, look, board, you're going to have to appoint a chairman. You're going to have to appoint a treasurer, those different things that are inherent in a municipal authority. So I kind of just gave you some of that material that my office, Penn Train, and PennDOT kind of put together for new board training that, we'll kind of walk them through, I think, the first meeting. And then the second one, Adam, to your point, we'll get into a little bit more meatier stuff. Probably I would say Michael Knoll should come to talk about the customers and the riding public that we have, especially because that's all paid for by Penn Train. So that was another thing that I provided to them. And you all in conjunction with the authority can decide what type of officers the authority is going to need. Typically there's only 4. Harrisburg has 6. I don't know if it was a power play type thing. It doesn't really matter because the chairman's going to chair the meeting, that type of thing. And the next thing I sent was sample bylaws. I didn't have a heck of a lot of sample bylaws to send you because
They're all the same.
they're all pretty much the same.
Yeah.
The one thing that's a little bit different, and this becomes a little bit more particularly important if you have a city, county authority or whatever, a lot of times there'll be for the chairman a term limit and maybe switch off between a city versus county appointee. And again, that can change. People can change the bylaws, or the authority can meeting to meeting if they really want to. But really, that's kind of the main change. Based upon the immunity of municipal authorities, and I hate to get in the weeds, but I want to tell you why some of the stuff's in the bylaws. The city code defines exactly what city council does and the mayor does. Like, you have inherent job descriptions. The MPC basically says you can do these 26 things unless it's in your bylaws. So the bylaws are robust on the purpose statement, because no matter what happens at that authority, I want your immunity to stay intact. So, you know, if you're providing a government function as a municipal authority, it goes back to your bylaws. So once in a while, we'll add more governmental purposes to those bylaws to make sure it's broad enough. Like the Authorities Act doesn't say you can operate a CNG facility, but the Authorities Act says whatever furthers the governmental purpose. So we included CNG, you know, so that's kind of why the purpose statement's long, just because myself, anytime the law changes for an authority, I add another purpose to make it broad enough to maintain your governmental immunity. Because that's, as a transit authority, that immunity is second only to state funding, is critical to your operation. So that's kind of the bylaws. Again, term limits, rotating board, that's the main distinction in the bylaws that we have. So that's kind of what that looks like. But not to say we can't reinvent the wheel, but that's the background of why you have the form you have.
Okay. All right. Thanks for all that, Jill. Bonnie, Eric, I'll open the discussion to you guys. So she went over some information provided on different structures that we can accommodate, some detail on the bylaws, that kind of thing. You know, I guess as we look at governance, based on what you went through, based on what Jill said, based on some of our previous conversations in previous meetings, you know, where are you guys' heads at?
To be truthful with you, I'm still trying to digest a lot of the verbiage that was sent to us, Jill. You know, you digest some, and then you go back and you read it again. I mean, there's a lot to go through. And like you said, some of it is, you know, we're not reinventing the wheel, but for us, this is going to be very important to make sure we do get it correct. And so my questions are still marinating. Okay.
No, and like I said, the nice thing for you guys from governance standpoint, as far as adding the county, you know, I think this committee would be important at the training, you know, especially when we do some of this kickoff stuff to go through the job descriptions. Because like I said, there's no rush to make that decision. Like you're basically starting now. All of those discussions, pros and cons, can be happening the next 4 months, 6 months, even a year. It's just a matter of, you know, getting the seats filled with plenty of room to spare for additional members. Because I think you're right, Bonnie. It was a big data dump, and I felt kind of terrible on Saturday sending it all like that.
I sat there and it was like I was trying to digest so much, and it's like, because knowing the meeting was on Tuesday, it's like, wait, I just mentally cannot do this. Plus I had the flu, and it's like, you know, no, we just can't do this. How soon does this have to be nailed down?
Like the bylaws or the governance?
Right.
So basically the bylaws can be fluid. We have to at least have someone chair the first meeting. So they would, the authority would adopt them at their first meeting. But again, they can change them the following week. There's no advertisement criteria, anything like that. So those bylaws can be changed. City council is the driving force on the authority makeup, whether the county's involved. You can take 3 months, 6 months, a year and a half. That is on your time frame. You can absolutely have conversations with the county, whomever you so choose on that. So that can be something where council can say, let's see if these 5 members work and get us rolling through the first 6 months, or you want to add someone up front. And the nice thing is every agency gets PennDOT paid for board training once a year. So it's not like we can't, you know, fill 3 members in October or next February. So you have a ton of time, Bonnie. And like I said, the bylaws, there's not too much new and crazy stuff in there. So, you know, that would be for the first meeting, but it can certainly change as the board sees fit.
Well, it was like I said to the 4 people today, you know, there's a lot to digest. There's a lot to learn. And, you know, we're in the same boat. I mean, these are a lot of things that we're all learning also. So, you know, and trying to make as few mistakes as possible. And because, Jill, you have been so active in so many different authorities, you are our driving force, to be truthful. You're the one that we can go to and ask the questions and get the answers.
And like I said, if we're going to have training before the first couple meetings, so maybe after the training that begs some questions on governance or what we want to look at or where we want to reach our arms to. So the nice thing is the hard part as far as forming the authority is over. Getting a couple members for the training, but you now have no gun to your head on, amending those articles, adding members, what those bylaws look like.
Okay, all right. I don't have any other questions, Adam.
Eric, any comments or questions from you?
That answered most of mine. I mean, from my personal standpoint, as I look at the makeup of this and what I already said, I really truly think the county is something that needs to be involved from the beginning, considering the area that we service and the entanglement that we have with RBT and how we're trying to break that up. I think it's imperative that we just start to do it right away and not continue this dance, because quite frankly, it got us into enough of a mess.
Yeah, I would individually echo those sentiments, at least from a appointment process. I think it's a way that we ensure that other communities of interest that are, that do have skin in the game get proper representation moving forward. Scott, I don't want to put you on the spot, and I know you can't certainly speak for the commissioners or any of that kind of stuff, and I'm not asking that, but I would like to ask for I guess some of your thoughts related to that idea. I know you're involved with Watts and county planning, so I don't know if I just wanted to at least give you the opportunity to chime in on that, since we're talking about something in your realm, if you're there. There he is.
I'm here. Hi. Sorry, my cursor was disappearing there. I was trying to unmute. So yeah, I've brought the subject up to the commissioners. The last committee meeting, there was a lot of discussion of, incorporating the authority with 5 members and then expanding it later, bringing the county in.
Yeah.
I would just say, budget time. Don't assume that we're just going to be able to, bring the county in at this point. In your timeline, there might be a little bit of a sales job there, convincing the commissioners, because really it's the county commissioners you have to convince,
Yep.
Setting up a meeting and discussion with them. I mean, if you want, I could set something up, in the near future. If some members of council wanted to come in, the mayor, some RVT reps, and just pitch it to the commissioners. I can help set that up. I think that would probably be the best way to move forward on that. If you really do want to start off with county involvement. I mean, I know that, the sort of, joint authority between city and county, that's pretty common in PA. Having the transit authority set up that way, and just looking around on my own at how a lot of authorities have been set up. I mean, that's from inception, a lot of them are done that way. But yeah, there's also, I mean, the other consideration that I think is important to sort of bake into the cake now is that I assume that the county commissioners are going to have to go through all the same procedures the city does, as far as having a public hearing about setting up joining the authority, right?
Is that correct, Jill?
So now that the authority has been formed, the county does not need a public hearing, but they must do a resolution, and you must do another ordinance to amend the articles. So that's the only step that we lose. And if, in theory, if the county says, yeah, we want to be involved in the beginning, even if we have to go through some of those, let's say, maneuvering, like public actions that can't take place until August for whatever reason, certainly reps can come to the training. The initial startup of the authority disentangles RVT from the city. That at least is a pretty clean sever. So if we at least know maybe what the county's thinking, and I don't even care if the commissioners want to come to the training, or Scott or anybody wants to come to the training to kind of see what direction we're going in. Because the frank reality is there'll be a bunch of items for the startup of the new authority that's going to take, like I said, probably to October. I frankly don't see it being humanly possible to start strategic planning until well into the fall. So, the initial startup first couple meetings, there's not a lot of discretionary moves there. But I think if you want to move in this direction, Eric and Adam and Bonnie and the county, you're more looking at a fall end of year target when we start to do some strategic planning. So if that puts anyone's mind at ease, that's kind of how I would foresee a timeline playing out.
Okay. That makes sense. I guess as far as timing, I mean, to speak on bylaws a little bit, there were a couple of things that I thought would be worthy to add. And again, I mean, future board can change this however they want. I get that, but I do think, at least from the city's perspective, we should position these as best as we can so that they have full knowledge and ability to change them however they want. There's a couple of thoughts that I had that I think would be valuable for them to give them future guidance. One, I think, so there's, on all those bylaws, there were a couple of subcommittees, right? Executive, finance, what have you. I think it would be good to have an ethics committee. One thing that was discovered, and I even think it was referenced in the last performance review, employees never felt that they felt they didn't have anywhere to go to speak up about issues, whether it was personnel issues, whether it was financial issues. I think having that in there specifically would be a good idea to help resolve that in the future, because they will no longer be a part of the city. Right. So the other thing too that I thought would be of value was including some language in there about for hiring, conforming to PennDOT job classifications. And again, from what I've learned, I think for a long time, there were some hiring practices that probably should not have been happening, that probably aided in kind of where we're at. And I think having that little bit of a flag in there as a reminder for the board, hey, we got to make sure that we're hiring the right people and qualified people. And there's already classifications and standards out there. We don't have to invent the wheel at all. Those are just two things that I thought would be valuable to have. And I don't know if we should do that sooner than later as far as order of priority, because I know that we're going to get this up and running sooner than later. So.
No, I can add both of them. And the nice thing, at least for these employees, but not for the city, but now that there's a break, safety now has a ethics hotline that any employee can call. But I think that's a great idea for the bylaws. So I'll kind of add some of those and spruce it up to reflect this, and then, make a very simple amendment process in the bylaws in case we need to change or the board sees anything else, and we can talk through all that. But I'll add these as additional committee type issues.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. Absolutely. Eric, Bonnie, at least with bylaws, if there's anything you have, chime in or what have you.
I'm fine right now, Adam.
Okay.
Good as well.
Okay. Yeah, Jill, if you don't mind, make those changes. And if you want to shoot them out, I mean, we can take a look at them. That's fine. But those are the things that stuck out to me with those. That takes care of that. And then I guess it seems like a next step would be, I guess talking to the county to see if they are actually interested in being a part of this, and if so, to what degree. So I can reach out to them. And Scott, I appreciate the offer of assistance and guidance there. I'm happy to reach out to them and start that process as well. So that's no big deal. Okay. Any other questions related to governance? Jill, a lot of the information was really, really helpful. Good. As far as just technically understanding how we would achieve all of these different options. At this point, it's really a discussion on the county's end. So which I think I agree with you, Eric. I think we need to do that sooner than later. So we'll try to do that. Any other comments or questions? Bonnie, Eric, Scott, anybody on the committee, anybody from RVT related to governance?
No.
No.
All right. All right. We're in.
I think we covered a lot of territory here.
Good.
Yeah, certainly, which is good. So, all right. We've got 5 items that are on the agenda for Thursday that we got to go through here. So let's take some time and do that. Item 3, moving on, resolution authorizing professional services agreement between RVT and Poster and Jackal Corp. Mr. Winder, I will turn it over to you, sir.
This is a resolution authorizing a service agreement with Postler and Jackal. It is to maintain our calibration of methane. It's our detects natural gas within the building here at RVT. Due to the storage of the buses that carry the natural gas, it is a requirement. They were the installers. For the first year, $33,780. Second year, $3,780. Third year was $3,895. It's pretty straightforward. Any questions? We'll be more than happy to answer them.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Winder. Bonnie, Eric, I'll turn it over to you to start off.
I have no questions. We'll look straight forward.
Yeah, nor do I.
Okay. Mr. Winder, do we RFP this, I assume?
We did not because I wasn't aware that we had to do that for something under $21,300.
Okay.
Like I said, it's the company that installed it.
Okay.
It's their equipment, so it made the most sense to go back to them.
Okay.
And Jill did look at this?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I will take a motion.
I'll make a motion. We pass this on to the full body of council with a positive recommendation.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Next one, resolution authorizing professional services agreement between RVT and Ingersoll Rand Company. Mr. Winder.
This one is very similar. This one's for our air compressors at River Valley Transit. Ingersoll and Rand is the brand, and they're the provider for service work to their equipment. This one is not to exceed $5,144.92 in year 1, $5,299.27 in year 2, and $5,458.25 in year 3. It's just overall service of the equipment. As I said, they're the Ingersoll and Rand dealer. It is an Ingersoll and Rand compressors. And since they do cover this area, it made the most sense to go with an agreement with them.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Winder. Bonnie, Eric, any questions?
I have none.
None.
All right. What kind of age are we looking at with our compressors, Adam?
This compressor is at 10 years and we're looking at a 15-year total life.
10 years and 15-year total life. And that is set by the state as well. They'll replace it on the 15th year.
Okay. So we're 2/3 of the way through quote unquote useful life. When we get to the end of this contract, we'll likely be approaching or at the point where RVT will be looking to replace these probably.
Yes, sir. And at that point, the state will be giving us the push to replace it anyway under our CPT program.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. That sounds good. I will take a motion.
I'll make a motion to pass this on to the full body of council with a positive recommendation.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Item 5, resolution authorizing professional services between RVT and direct business marketing for natural gas, it looks like.
Yes, this one is for natural gas. This would lock in our natural gas prices for the facilities themselves at 6.599 MMBTU for each year. This would commence on 5/1 of 2023. It's similar to the agreement we brought forward for the CNG fueling stations. As I said at that time, with the rising prices, it just makes the most sense for us to lock in our pricing at this point. If it should change between now and Thursday, we will present a new resolution Thursday night because the pricing is fluctuating every day.
Got you. Thank you, Mr. Winder. Bonnie, Eric, any questions?
We're just caught between a rock and a hard place, aren't we, Adam? Because it could go lower, it could go higher, you know? And if it goes lower, what was the lowest we've ever had, Adam?
Brett's thinking. Brett's going to look right now. He takes care of this.
Hi, Brett.
Hello. It's gonna take me a little bit to find it up here.
I just think it would be interesting to know how low it's been.
In lower, trying to find my folder.
Direct is the RFP, right?
I think the lowest it's ever been was 3.13. That was 5 years ago, maybe, somewhere in that area.
Okay.
It's just that with the prices and everything going crazy right now, they strongly recommend that we lock in.
Oh, I think we all understand that, you know,
Yeah.
where the world's going and everything. It's just very frustrating that we have to do that. But people have to do that with so many different things. I don't care what industry you're in at this point. You do have to lock things in. But anyhow, thank you, Adam.
Eric, any questions for you, sir?
3.2.
No, none at this time.
All right, and I don't either. This is like you said, Adam, or Mr. Winder, this is pretty much in line with what we had. I think it was 2 weeks ago. So I will take a motion.
2017.
Make a motion that we pass this on to the full body of council with a positive recommendation.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Item 6, professional services agreement between RVT and Direct Energy Business Marketing for Electric. Mr. Winder.
Similar, just with the electricity for the facilities, this would lock in our rate not to exceed 8.885 cents per kilowatt hour for each year of this agreement for a total of 48 months. As everything else, the climate is making everything climb. So we feel it's in our best interest to lock that not to exceed number in for 48 months.
Bonnie, Eric, any questions?
No questions.
None.
Yeah, no, me neither. I would agree. I mean, we're giving ourselves budgetary certainty and locking in a max rate that we're going to pay. We get the benefit of it fluctuating and getting lower, which is good. So I'll take a motion.
Like to pass this on to the full body of council with a positive recommendation?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Item 7, resolution municipality certifying provision of local match from state operating financial assistance. Mr. Winder.
So it's that time of year where we need to commit the local match. So the city's portion of the local match would be $269,766. We have been successful on retrieving local match from the other municipalities. Commitment from other municipalities, I should say. And now we're just at the city level for the city's commitment.
Okay. Eric, Bonnie. any
Adam, how are you
questions for
making
you?
out with the other municipalities? There was a problem with a couple of them now. Is that all straightened out?
Yes, there's only one municipality that, well, we're waiting on 3 resolutions, but they've committed to getting those resolutions passed within the next couple of weeks. One municipality that we're still working with to get the local match up to where it needs to be. It is challenging going from, no local match to suddenly you're getting hit with I'm going to call it a significant amount of money. So we are working through that with them to let them receive the money from the other funding partners that we would bill, and it would fall into the organizational paid share. We're just going to let that municipality receive that funding this year due to the crunch within their budget. And we're going to keep working with them moving forward to get a full commitment.
This would be very difficult for any municipality. I mean, we as a city could understand that if all of a sudden you're receiving a bill that you never really had that kind of price tag attached to it. So, it is, like I said, understandable. What happens if any of these townships or cities don't want to participate? What will happen there?
Currently, the city is on the hook for the full local match if the other municipalities do not commit. That's why we were very diligent with making sure we got a commitment to have a solid number to bring before city council for their commitment. That's how we ended up at the 269,766. Last year, if you remember correctly, city council approved resolution affirming the full local match with assistance from the other local partners.
Yeah, I remember that, Adam. It's just, you worry about if everybody is going to pay their fair share. I mean, we, as a city, cannot take that load on all the time. We really can't. So hopefully everybody's going to understand. I know you're giving them leeway at this point, but there's going to come a time when everybody is going to have to pay their fair share.
Correct. And that's why we didn't want to bring this before council till we had a full commitment. Like I said, we have 3 resolutions hanging out there that the managers of those municipalities are very adamant that they'll get those resolutions passed at their next board meeting. So
Okay.
we feel that commitment was well enough to us that we could bring this resolution before council for your approval.
Okay, and this would go through Jill?
I'm sorry, did they go through Jill?
Yes.
Yeah, she assisted with all the resolutions that we needed to do.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. Okay, I have no other questions.
Eric, any questions from you?
No, other than just the comment that I would make is that I think that something like this is also very important when we talk about county involvement, and getting people to participate, or getting municipalities to participate, and having possibly board representative from those areas to give them a little bit more skin in the game.
Yeah, here.
Well, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Between Mr. Winder, Mr. Pavlak, could you guys refresh me on where this stacks up to previous years? Are we up? Are we down? Historically, what are we looking at? Is this right in the middle for our local match?
It's definitely up.
Mhm.
Based upon the boards and lights is how we came up with the number. I'm not sure exactly how I want to say this, but in prior years, the city would pay the full local match. On paper, it showed that the other municipalities were invoiced, and then River Valley Transit, is my understanding, would then issue money back to the city. So this is just one more way of having that separation and clean process so that we don't get into that gray area anymore.
Yeah, no, I get you. So the answer is we don't know.
That's
We don't have a
a
long.
better way to put it, yeah.
Yeah.
honestly,
The answer is we
I-
don't know. We don't really have a long history.
And
Right,
the mandate from PennDOT is it goes for River Valley, it goes up 5% a year, no matter what. And then that's divided among the people. So no matter what, every year RVT has to do a 5% in order to get the full state allocation. So if nothing else, that's simmering there too.
Right.
So the way to act, so that, sorry, Mr. Winter, go ahead.
That's until we reach the full 15% that it's supposed to go up,
Right.
which it sounds
Okay.
like when you say 5% a year, it sounds like we'll hit that 15% relatively quickly, but we really won't. It'll take a lot longer to hit the 15% than just the 5% a year.
Okay. And refresh my memory here. So the local match is that a fixed number for every year from PennDOT, or does that go up or down? Like, so for instance, does it go up as we get more other funding or as we grow, or is it just a fixed amount based on ridership or what?
Based on your.
It's based on your 15-13 allocation strictly. PennDOT every year will send us a letter saying this is what the allocation is. They'll give us for 15-13 funds. And this is what the local match is required to be. The local match does not offset anything other than your 15-13 funds.
Okay, gotcha. So it could go up or down based on that other monetary value, but aside from that, it's practically fixed.
Yeah, it's a fixed percentage of the 15-13 fund, yes.
Okay. So the way to keep the growth rate down or shrink it is to grow and bring in other municipalities into the fold, right?
Correct. And that's the goal of RVTA, to veer away from actually invoicing municipalities and get more county-wide involved. Like, there's 5 counties south where there's no fixed route service at all. They would like it. So it's definitely an avenue we'd like to go. And that was the goal of starting the board at 5 members and having the ability to grow the board with each county that we achieve, service within. I mean, I certainly don't want to grow as big as Westmoreland, I believe it is, that has 22 board members. I can only imagine what that young lady as the executive director goes through.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but okay. All right. Sounds good. Any other questions from anyone? All right, hearing and seeing none, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to pass this on to the full body of council with a positive recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 All right. Item 8, any related items? Eric, Bonnie, any related items for you two?
Nothing for me.
Nothing.
Mr. Winder, team at RVT, anything from you that we need to bring up, discuss that you need?
Not that I can think of.
All right, Jill, you're okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Can't operate my computer, but otherwise good.
We can't help you there. All right. Scott, Joe, you guys are the only other two directly involved with the committee. You guys okay as well before we adjourn?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, one thing I want to do, I've been kind of mulling over the conversation earlier with the prospective authority board members. The one thing that we can do here with our Watts staff is when you're onboarding the new board members, we can also assist with some of that, giving them the background and context. I think Councilman Biter made a really good point earlier about, getting some of that wider context, because we do a lot of the, overall planning and programming documents that cover, highway and bridge and transit, here, our long range transportation plan. When we do our TIP, we prepare all those documents here. And as part of that, we do a huge amount of demographic analysis. We look at how all of our different transportation modes overlay and intersect with each other. And I think that, I mean, we would be very happy to come in and talk to the new board when they come in and sort of give them an understanding of, that sort of wider context of how, the RVT operations fit into the wider transportation system in Lycoming County.
Yeah, I would, I would agree with that. I think it's just one more reason, at least from my perspective, I think why having formal involvement from the county, even at the board level, makes a lot of sense. There's having a formal conduit there, I think would be very beneficial for RVT, for the county, for everybody, for that and other reasons, but understood. So I appreciate that, Scott. All right. Hearing nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
All right.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. A long one, but thank you everybody for your work today. And we'll see you all Thursday night.
Thanks.
Okey-dokey.
Take it easy.
Thanks. Have a good one.